seems like the story of the day was the defense, and not just a handful of guys, but pretty much the entire defense. What did you see that allowed them to come together the way they did to stop a quarterback of that caliber?
Yeah, I mean, I think Cam Ward's one of the really special quarterbacks, and, I think he was 19 of 39. He hadn't thrown a pick on the season. To pick him twice, we knew that was going to be a challenge. But I think it was both. It was the coverage on the back end, and that was a question earlier in the week. How are those guys going to hold up? And I thought they did a great job. We didn't get any balls thrown over our heads. And they had been doing that to everybody. And then the pressure that our front provided and our linebackers provided, and there was a bunch of them. That's the cool part about today, is that there were so many guys that contributed specifically on that side, and it was impressive to see. They play hard, they play for each other, and it was really impressive. So I think that was really the story in terms of shutting them down. I think it was the total team defense that shut them down.
And Dan Lynn's role in coordinating that defense?
Yeah, same. They did an outstanding job. Dan and that whole group. I think our entire defensive staff, led by him, did an unbelievable job. Because that was the number 2 ranked passing offense in the country. And to hold them to that and not allow them really to rush it was outstanding. And really we gave them one score on the offensive side of the ball. So, but besides that, they were phenomenal. So the whole coaching staff and players were outstanding on the defensive side.
Coach, Keegan Jones had no rushes coming into today, and then you guys call on him twice in the red zone and he scores.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say about his involvement and what led to his usage in those big spots in the red zone?
Just a package. I think he had a carry earlier in the year, though. You may want to check on that. He's versatile. He can do a couple different things. We threw out of it. It was a pass we missed to Carson. To Carson. We have too many Carsons. To our tight end. We missed him. They went to review with it, but then we came back with a couple runs out of it and felt like we had something there. But that's Keegan. He's got some versatility. He had a pretty good kickoff return also. They kicked it away from our one returner and kicked it to the other side, and he did a really good job of getting the ball up the field. So, again, there was a lot of guys that contributed on the offensive side of the ball. I thought our tight ends, Mo was huge. He came up really big. Carson Steele was really big for us today. You got to have that when you're in a game like this against a really good football team. It was a 13th ranked team in the country, so it took everybody.
And then I want to ask you about those tight ends. They combined for 6 catches and 160 yards. How much depth does that add and versatility in your passing game when you have those guys?
It all helps. I think we got contributions from our wideouts. I thought J. Mike did some really nice things today. Obviously, Logan did some really good things today. And then when you got the tight ends contributing the way they're contributing, and then the backs between TJ and Carson, and then Colson did some nice things today in there, and Keegan. So, I think it was a really good team victory.
Chip, the offense through the first 3 quarters in the red zone, what do you think were the issues there? And then also, what did you think about the 2 touchdowns that were wiped away? I think the catch by Carson and then the one by J. Michael.
Yeah, we're not allowed to comment on that stuff, so I can't comment on that, unfortunately. But I'd love to, but I can't. So, they're a good football. We knew they were a good football team coming in, so we knew it wasn't going to be an easy deal. Jake's a defensive guy. That's a very well coached defense. We knew we were going to have a challenge, and they weren't the 13th ranked team in the country. We didn't think we were going to come in here and blow them out of the stadium. So we moved the ball, but I think at times we hurt ourselves offensively. But we'll continue to grow and get better.
Coach, what can you say about the composure and patience of this team? There was that pick 6 right before the half, but then they come out and you guys eventually get the win. Did you say anything to the team? Did they say anything to each other?
Yeah, we talk about that stuff all the time. I think in games, 3 things happens: momentum swings, adversity, and just random acts. And the key to the whole thing is if you're a competitor, you respond to it, and if you're a non-competitor, you react to it. And I think we found out what we known all along. We got a bunch of competitors, and they responded. We knew that was going to be a good football team. We knew that was not going to be where it was over at the end of the first half. We were just going to have to keep banging away, and fortunately we did. I think we ran 90. I don't know what the final. What was 97 maybe? What was the final tally for plays on offense? So, how many? 97. Yeah, we were trying to match the temperature. So it was 97. We were going to run 97. So unfortunately, our guys followed that because when we played Coastal, it was 60 degrees out. We only ran 60 plays. So we got to try to get that formula changed, especially if we have to go to Corvallis, because I don't think it's going to be 90 in Corvallis next Saturday. So.
Yeah, Coach, 2 questions. Just the dominance of the run game, Coach. I want you to.
I lost. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, right here. Just the dominance of the run game. Like, you guys were able to really, move the ball a lot. Carson was able to really dominate over 120-plus yards. And then the second question, how are you able to get Dante, get him poised and get himself together after the late interception in the second half, having no turnovers?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get Dante poised. He's poised to begin with. I think he's got a really good view of things. I think he understands if he makes a mistake. We just talk about, well, you win and you learn. So if it doesn't go the way you want it, what was the reason it didn't go the way you wanted, then let's fix it. He doesn't make many mistakes twice. The only issue is that he hasn't had a lot of snaps. He's a true freshman, so there's some on-the-job trading there that, we'll learn from that. But he's an amazing kid to coach because he wants to be coached, and he'll go back in. I'm sure he'll watch the game tonight and make adjustments, and then we'll meet with him tomorrow because we're back in on Sunday. So, but that poise is, you don't have to get him to get poised. He's poised. He was poised before he got here.
Chip, the defense was pretty stout against Utah, so was there confidence even during the bye week or a sense that this kind of performance could come against Washington State? And then, I know you don't look like looking back and stuff, but is this one of the best defensive performances you've been a part of?
We just talk about the process, so, and I'm really proud of them, but I think they've played really well in every game we've played. I thought they played really well on defense against Coastal Carolina. Had 2 huge picks in the second half for us in that game. I thought they played really well on defense against San Diego State. Obviously, in North Carolina Central game, they scored late against, really our young kids that were in the game, and I thought they played good then, and they played good last week against Utah, and they played good again this week. But we're not comparing or contrasting. I understand the question because you guys have to write stories. We're not writing a story. We're just trying to get better every day, and we're part of the process. But I think there's a bunch of guys that the cool part for us that we see getting better every day, and it's like, wow, like that kid's getting better and better and better. We're an ascending team. I think we're working on that, and so we'll pick our head up in December and figure out where we are with this whole thing. But our mindset is we played a lot of snaps today. Our guys got to rest up. And then make sure we're ready for tomorrow because we got another really, really good team. That's a ranked team in Oregon State, and Jonathan does a really good job. This game 2 weeks ago was 38-35 between Oregon State and Washington State, and it was a heck of a football game. So I anticipate next week's going to be a heck of a football game too.
It seemed pretty clear you were doing some things to help Dante, a lot of rollouts, quick passes. Did you adjust to help him, get in a rhythm with things like that?
No. Again, everything we do is based upon what the defense does. So you could say, hey, man, we got to roll out. Well, if they got 6 guys blitzing off the outside on the right, rolling out into that's not a really good play. So they ran a lot of internal pressures. They got us early in the game with some internal pressures, so we had it in our game plan that we need to get the ball to the perimeter. So it's really based upon what the defense is doing and what we determined during the week that they're going to do based on the games that they played. So going into this game, our game plan was to move the pocket a little bit and get him on the move because they're really stout and can do a lot of things inside. So that was kind of part of the game plan.
Coach, when you have a defense clicking like yours is, and a quarterback who's getting his feet or is getting his legs under him, still learning, does it help him like mentally just a tiny bit, sort of alleviate some of the pressure, knowing that his defense has his back, like yours has?
Maybe. I mean, that's probably a good question for Dante. But I think it's a team thing. Like our defense fueled us early in that game, and I think our guys feed off of that. And if you see the energy that Latu and Darius and Kay Medrano and the Murphys and those guys play with, I think it's infectious, and I think it permeates throughout the whole program. So they can give energy to us, and there's times when we're going to have to give energy to them when it flips, but I think it's the mark of a good team. It's a really connected team, and they really care about each other. So,
Coach, could you talk about the pass defense? I think Cam Ward had 0 interceptions through this game, and today you guys forced 2, and there was just really tight pressure across the board. What are your thoughts on how they performed?
Yeah, that was a question Ben asked earlier in the week. How is your back end going to hold up? And I don't think anybody knew, but I think they held up pretty good. I'll talk to those guys in the locker room, but I think that whole back end, there were not a lot of guys running clean through things. I think that entire group, the group of safeties that play and the group of corners that play, did a really, really good job. And that's where we're playing really good defense, that it's not just the front, the back end can hold up too. Because there were some times that, and I don't know the clock number, but Cam kept some plays around for a long time. And just kept scrambling because he's just such a difficult player. And he always scrambles to throw. He's not really scrambling to run. So that means you have to stay in coverage for a really, really long time. And if he's continuing to run around and scramble, then that means our guys are doing a good job on the back end. And I was really happy for him. I thought Hump and Kirk and Jalen did a really good job. And then the work at Kamari and Churchwell and obviously Alex Johnson has been playing at a really, really high level right now. But Jordan Anderson played really well for us today. I thought Will Nimmo played really well for us today. So I think that whole group is all starting to grow a little bit. We obviously were a little bit younger on the back end than we were on the front end. But I think they're feeding off each other right now.
Carson Steele was a workhorse for you tonight, but it seems like any running back could kind of step into that role depending on the game. So just how diverse is your running back room? Okay, maybe not quite like he could, but like how diverse is your running back room at this point?
We do have some depth, and I think that's one of the strengths of our team, and I think it's a really good point. We have depth there, but you watch him start to get rolling and running through tackles, and if I'm a defensive coach, I don't know what to do because we schemed it up and we have an unblocked guy that should make the tackle for a gain of 3, and he runs through the guy. Even the last play, we had to get 1 first down to finish the game. And on the first play, he just ran through like 3 guys and just kept going. I mean, he's a downhill physical football player. But I think the fact that TJ can play, and I know Anthony Atkins can really play, and I know Keegan can play, and I know Colson can play. So that depth will be tested at some point in time during the year. Knock on wood, we've been extremely healthy as a team. A lot of that is from our strength and conditioning program and what we do. But we know that we're going to get tested, and the fact that we have some depth there is a real positive for us. So.
And then the delay of game disconcerting signal call, can you explain a little bit more about what that is and maybe why it's happened 2 games in a row?
That's an unbelievable question, and I do not have an answer.
Coach, the 2-point conversion, you guys lined up in that jumbo package, and then Colson Yankoff goes in motion. Is that a designed run, or is that an option where where Dante can pass to Yankoff?
It was a run or a pass.
Okay. And from your perspective, could you tell maybe
it
kind
didn't
of what
work. That was my perspective. It didn't work.
Fair enough.
Hey, Coach Kelly, quick question about Carson Steele. I mean, he had 30 carries tonight. Was that something that you were going into the game, maybe thinking Carson would get the load of the carries, or was this just something that you were riding the hot hand and you weren't going to?
Yeah, Deshaun Foster does a great job with him, and D does all the substitution at that position. So, but we did not talk or discuss, what's the amount of carries we're going to have. I don't think anybody on our staff or anybody thought we would run 97 plays in this game. You know what I mean? Especially knowing the heat and all those other things and what that's going to be like. But I think it's a testament to our guys on the offensive side of the ball, and I think that's just how this game ended up expressing itself. There's going to be games where we have to throw the ball more than we have to run the ball, or vice versa. And I think it just depends on what type of game you're getting involved in. But you can't go in and say we have to run it this amount or we got to throw it that amount. So, but we were fortunate that we had Carson, so we could do that with him. So.
Chip, just on the missed extra point in the field goal, anything that you saw in terms of the operation? Or
one of the holds wasn't great, but we'll get to the bottom of that. But the rest of it, I thought, those first 2 was just, sometimes it's just a miss. We hadn't missed one yet. RJ had been really, really good, but we'll go over that whole, watch the film and correct it, so we're good. I mean, we can keep talking because we played at noon, so people in Manila are not going to get up for a long time. They're going to want to know what happened, so if you guys are good, I'll leave. But, Ben, you don't have a deadline or anything, do you, right? You got a ton of time, right?
Yeah, that's another conversation about the LA Times.
Conversation. Okay.
the disconcerting thing, not the infraction part, but what's the rule?
I really don't have a great answer for you. I couldn't discuss it with you, but I don't. We've discussed it with the league office, and it's up to the officials on game day on what they say. So, you're not allowed to mimic their snap count, and there is no snap count on a field goal. So I'm as confused as everybody else.
Hey, Coach Kelly, one more question about the offensive play call. You said you were running 97 plays. As an offensive-minded coach, what's it like having to, dive deep into your playbook to come up with 97 effective plays in a game?
I was going to say it's good to call 97 plays because you make a lot of mistakes, but I appreciate that you said we called 97 effective plays. It's just how the game expresses itself, and I think I thought our coaching staff, there's a lot of talk on the sideline, and ultimately I call the play, but it's not. There was a lot of contributions. Hey, we've done this. Can we come back with this? Guys, saying, hey, when we do this, this happens. Good. That's a great idea. So just like it is on the defensive side of the ball, it's very, very collaborative on the offensive side of the ball. And, we have a great staff. Tim Drevno and Ryan Gunderson and Deshaun Foster and Jeff Ferris and Jerry do a great job. If everybody contributed, and that's the cool part about it, is that everybody had a big part in that. And there were some calls that they made, like, hey, we should go to this. I wasn't even thinking of that. That's a great call. Let's come back and let's go there. So it was I thought our staff in both sides did a really good job, especially with in-game adjustments today. Because when you play in a tight game like that, there's going to be a lot of in-game adjustments. And I thought both sides of the ball did a really good job of that.
Coach, after the Utah game, you mentioned...
I was joking about staying here late. I thought that was a good line to walk out the door, but yeah.
You mentioned having a moment with Kyle Whittingham about playing the last time against Utah.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of moment about today about, maybe the last
I talked to
game
Pat
against-
Chung a little bit. I think it's a travesty that Washington State's not in the conference. That to me is a joke. That's a really, really good football team in a school that's had a bunch of tradition. And it's the same thing with Oregon State. The fact that those two schools aren't in a Power 5 conference or won't be in a Power 5 conference next year is so that people should figure it out. There's a lot of really smart people in college athletics, but if we let those two schools not end up in a Power 5, then shame on us. That's just not right. You're talking about two nationally ranked football teams that do it the right way, and I've got a ton of respect for both of those programs, and I hope things work out for them because they deserve to play football at the highest level because they can play football at the highest level. So I can't talk about the officials. I'm not going to talk about the NCAA. So we'll just let that go as it is. But I got a ton of respect, and I think those are two outstanding programs, and we got to play them back to back. And you saw what they were like today, and we know what it's going to be like next week when we go to Corvallis. So we'll leave on that. Thanks, guys. I know. They don't listen. Good job, Sam.
Start with Alex and Carl. Defensively, it was a complete performance. You guys intercepted somebody who'd not been intercepted all season twice. For both of you, what went into pretty much bottling them up all day?
You got that, Alex? Yeah, we talked about it earlier and all week, just being consistent and doing what we do as a defense. I mean, it starts with our effort. I think it starts with the guys up front, Carl leading that group, hunting after the quarterback, making life uncomfortable for him, and then everybody else doing their 111th and doing their job, and things fall into place.
Mm-hmm. Along with AJ said, it's just, it's a team effort. The defense, everybody's getting after it, and that's a testament to, last week, the week before, our defense is really a team defense. So,
Alex, you had the interception. Can you tell us about that play? And then you almost had a pick six, it looked like.
Yeah, I want that play back, actually. On the first one, they came out in a trips formation, 2 and 3, lined up tight to the core. Number 2 went in automatically, so I just broke it like right away to the flat. He put his eyes there, and the rest is history.
Alex, What can you say about how this the defensive backs are performing? Last few years it has kind of been subpar. This year, you guys look like a completely different unit.
Right. I think that's a testament to Coach Witt and Coach Norwood and what they've done with the scheme, and Coach Lynn as well. And I think it starts with our communication. Like, all across the board, we're making sure everybody's on the same page, and after that, everything can work out if everybody's like doing the same thing.
Carson, how are you feeling? I think you had like 30 carries, had the brunt of the load in the running game.
42.
How are you feeling right now?
Definitely going to be taking a few ice baths here soon. But, honestly, after just coming back off of a bum week and coming into a bye week, we knew we had to get ready, and we were going to run the ball a lot, try to really fix things and open things up for Dante as well. And, we started to get things to click. And, however the team needed to, run back and forth, and so we just kind of did it from there.
So, Carson, you guys ran 97 plays.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk about, you guys able to, keep your stamina out there and, continue to be productive. And then just you being on the offensive end, Dante throws the late interception in the first half. Were you able to talk to him, and, like, how was his composure, heading into the second half?
Yeah, coming from Indiana, I'm not really used to this weather out here. So, but, being able to train this whole summer, I couldn't tell you guys how much we ran. It was bad. But, being able to, outlast, the other team, being able to, really kind of make, back and forth. Even if it wasn't a big gain, we were just really, kept punching it. And, just like you were saying for Dante, everybody makes mistakes, and, we made mistakes, offense made mistakes, but, we have this mindset, so what, now what? And, being a kid that's 18 years old, he makes a lot less mistakes than everybody thinks he's going to make. But, being able to have him come back out there and, throw the touchdowns that he did, it just helps the team win.
And Carson, your workload was mentioned. Coming into this game, you and TJ kind of pretty evenly split the carries. Your yardage was pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you know that you were going to keep running back out there, and when did, I guess, you really start to get going?
Just honestly, it's a little bit of the game scheme. We were really planning the flip back, basically back and forth between this whole week, but. As honestly, whatever the game plan rolls is how it rolls. If he got them, the workload of the carries, then I would take less to, however we're going to make the team win is, how we're going to help. So being able to do that, that really helped us kind of click. And then coming out through the game, we were running stuff out of pistol, differently from what we were doing last week. And, that kind of helped. And we just kind of really decided when we were going back and forth who we really wanted. Coach Foss was really deciding that for us.
What's that Keegan Jones play out of the slot called? What's that called?
Should be just called touchdown, right? But, man, having Keegan being able to, go back and forth, he's an older dude. Being able to run the offense from a wide receiver position and the running back, it's hard enough for me to remember all the plays. I couldn't imagine him trying to remember all the, wide receiver positions and stuff. But him just being able to come in and execute, it's how we win games and stuff like that, especially our defense, holding people up, how they've been the last, all the last weeks that we played. But, it's really helped us, kind of improve.
How much time is he spending with the running back group in practice?
He'll come back and forth every once in a while. It really just depends. But, honestly, it's not as much as a lot of people would think. But, as soon as his number's called, he's, ready to go in and get rolling. So,
Carl, this one's for you. Washington State and Cam Ward, just one of the most efficient offenses in the nation, and you guys, basically put up a wall against them. What was the game plan, and how did you guys collectively, were able to limit him?
So Cam Ward, everyone knows, he's a good top 5 quarterback. Our game plan was literally to just get after him, let our front 7 go, and I was a spy this week, so my job was to make sure I had Cam Ward in front. So within that, my boys was able, Latu, the twins, even if it was Jay, Gary, they were able to just get loose in our 3-man rush, and I could just protect them. And for the most part, we did our job. He got frustrated a lot, and, we came out with the victory.
For Carl and Alex, last year, some of the defensive issues, with quarterbacks who can extend to play with their legs. It seems like you guys have improved in that area. What's, I guess, changed this year in both of your respective position groups?
I say for the D-Lo, our mentality. We feel like the game is on us. Coach Malloy, he tells us, if we want to win, it's on us, and we take that with high pride, and we let the team know. But within that, the team knows that we have them. We got their back, even if we do mess up and the quarterback does get out the box. The next play, we're going to get them. So.
I think secondary-wise, there's been a bigger emphasis on plastering routes when the plays break down. I mean, the Pac-12 is riddled with athletic quarterbacks who can extend plays, get loose. So having that bigger emphasis on that just makes our job a lot more easier. But we're also just prepared to maybe the play goes for 16 seconds, not 4. So we're always ready for whatever offenses bring to us.
And I just want to ask you guys about Coach Lynn, just obviously like his voice, this is his show right now. So what do you guys like about sort of how he's run the defense or led the defense since he's been here?
You got it, AJ.
Yeah, I think Coach Lynn, he just brings a whole new energy to this team, to this defense. He also lets us be free, like within our positions, within our groups. We're always able to ask questions or give feedback, give comments. So that open communication has allowed us to play more freely. I think that's been shown on Saturdays. And then also just creating a bond as a defense, being a family. Like every time 11 guys go out there, you can tell that those guys like are playing for each other. Like that's their brother. They'll lay down their life if they have to for their teammate. And just that's been huge for us.
Yeah.
For Alex, so Coach Whitfield is his first year at UCLA. I mean, what's that been like? I see on Twitter all the time he's usually busting your guys' chops, but I mean he's an energetic younger guy. What's that been like having Coach Whit in the cornerback DB?
Yeah, he actually this is his second year. He was here as I think he was in a GA role.
GA.
But yeah, having him back has been awesome. Like another guy that brings energy every day. He's never too high, never too low, but he's always making sure we're holding. He holds himself and we hold each other accountable. Having him has been awesome. He brings such great insight. He comes from Stanford, but he's a UCLA guy through and through now.
Carson, just how fast is Keegan and how is his speed an asset to you guys in the offense?
Yeah, he's lightning fast, blazing.
Fast.
Yeah, he's a dude that's so shifty, and being able to have him as a threat. And just like I was saying, him being able to just come in and run, 2 plays, 3 plays, whatever it was, and being able to score, it was an awesome thing.
It was 3. That's crazy.
So just being able to have that threat, kind of tucked in our belt, for the offense, it really helps us out.
Carl, do you have like a relationship with Keegan? Because obviously you were
yeah.
weighing in.
No, yeah, Keegan. I mean, we just so close, and Keegan. I was here my freshman year when he was here, and we're just grow together and just seeing everything that he does at practice, and him able to get his number called, and him do what he did today. When his number did get called, is just a testament to what he does at practice. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening.
Dante, sorry.
Thanks, man.
You stuck with it, and you guys got a great win. What does it feel like to come out on top on that one?
It's always great to have a team win. Like I said, throughout the game, it can be many plays that can cause adversity to happen. But at the end of the day, as long as the team that wins, for sure, is going to feel the most happiest, and knowing that there's a lot of mistakes that we have to correct for sure. But just getting the team win is the biggest thing. And like I say, that team was a really good football team. Like I said, from just watching film and just the way, especially just quarterback to quarterback, how Cam was just really in the pocket, how he makes plays. And like I said, our great defense, held it down, kept doing what they kept doing. And like I said, it's just as offense, you got to keep getting better. Person with myself, I have to keep getting better. But team wins is a great thing.
Hey, Dante. You threw a pick six at the end of the half. What was the message you got, from your coaches? And, you came out in the second half a little bit more stronger, a little bit more confident. Talk to me about what was being said to you during the halftime.
Truthfully, like I said, every time you get down in the red zone, especially being that close, at least you want to score some points. It can be a field goal, it can be a touchdown, whatever it is. But truthfully, like I said, on that play, number 4, I believe that was his number that caught the pick. It's just him. He was like a flying squirrel. He jumped in the air, wings out, threw the ball, and like I said, he picked it. And for me, from there, one thing I'm learning for sure, and one thing I did see from that is, sometimes just move or do my amazing sidearm angles and get the ball to the running back because he was open. But like I say, in football, like I said, especially on a collegiate level, one thing I'm still learning is everybody's good, man. Like I say, if you keep making mistakes or keep doing that, like a lot of people are going to capitalize off your mistakes, and that's when teams start to win. So. So it's a great defense, great rush team. Like I said, great coaching staff. So, like I said, that's in the red zone we have to score.
Yeah, it felt like you were like 8 out of 9 on rollouts today. How much did that help you? Did Coach design some things that helped you kind of, with protection and things like that, quick hitters and rolling out?
Yeah, like I said, just being a quarterback, a lot of times you want to talk to your coach, especially Coach Kelly. He's the offensive-minded guy, and, of course, he's the one that's calling the plays and stuff. So, like I said, during the week, we have had 2 weeks to, get ready for this game. So a lot of times I just went into his office, sat down, just communicate with him what I like, what I don't like, and if I don't like something, he can possibly, tell me if I'm seeing it, how I'm seeing it, if he can change my view of seeing things. But if I said, Coach, like, this play isn't really fitting with me, he would just cancel it off. So, like I said, I really appreciate Coach Kelly for, the hours that we spent together, especially me just being upstairs, with the coaches and seeing how they're thinking. And like I said, getting out the pocket, being a threat while you can run, you can throw the ball. Like I say, the tight ends run across the field in that hot heat, making them great catches. Like I say, it's a big shout out to them. And like I said, Logan, especially in his out routes, and Cam and everybody, they kept doing one hell of a job.
Hey, Dante, with the defense playing the way that they're playing, just how much confidence does it give you guys offensively, knowing that if you guys do make mistakes, that, they're out there making plays to get you the ball back and et cetera?
I mean, when you have one hell of a defense, man, like, that just does things like that, it can be turnovers, with fumbles, with picks, with, just pressure on the quarterback and things like that. I mean, on the sideline, you're like, all right, we're getting the ball back, wherever happens, Teams score, like I say, teams, kick field goals, and like I say, that happens, just football. But, as a quarterback, especially with the offense, I mean, you got to just, just score every time they get the ball. Of course, you can't, you can score every job, but it's going to be hard to. But really, the defense just keeps doing what they're doing. Like I said, I always give them the shout out. Like I said, defense wins football games. Like I said, I really believe that statement because really defenses are really ones that can hold it down, make sure the offense, the other side doesn't score. So our defense is doing really great. Darius, him just being a Mike linebacker that just really, keeps that defense together. And, Coach Lynn is really doing one hell of a job. I really appreciate him for sure.
And then talking about, just the performance of, the running game. Carson was able to pound the ball 30 times, 120-plus yards. And then Keegan being able to go in with, special plays for him to finish drives, scoring touchdowns. What's your thoughts on that?
Like I say, just having, a great first, you got to start off the offensive line. I mean, the offensive line, the way that, they can make the holes and make things pop open even for running backs. But sometimes, running backs can – go into a hole and it can be a little stuff and then make a play. So just having Carson, just TJ, Colson, Tutu, just having them just in the backfield, it just really helps you be more conduit, especially because a lot of times play actions work. A lot of times things get you open. But, just giving it to Keegan, I mean, 2 touchdowns, him just, his little, fast stuff, screaming, going through the lineman. It's hard to see him through the hole. So his burst of just speed and everything like that is for sure helping our offense out a lot. And like I said, he's just always been quiet. He hasn't complained about anything. And really when it comes to him getting the ball in his hand, he's going to do one great thing and he's going to score for sure.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson was here today. Did you get to talk to him at all?
Sure did. Actually, forgot what drive it was. I went up to him and I'm like, tell me what you're seeing out there. Tell me what some things I can work on. And like I say, Dorian has been a great quarterback. He still is a great quarterback, especially he's in, NFL right now. And really, it's a blessing for every kid against the NFL. But just watching, you know, every week when we watch a team, just watching the way he makes plays, the way just on film is just, he's amazing. So I just went up to him. Like I said, you know, he's played college football for many years. So just talked to him, and he just told me just go out there, just keep taking a deep breath. Like I said, the defense is doing what they got to do. They're getting these shots free. You just have to capitalize on the score and get in the end zone. And that next drive, I think it was the one where you're supposed to score. J. Mike, that was a catch. J. Mike for sure had that great catch. I got to give it to him. Like, that was insane. I thought it was a good, clean catch from my view, but I didn't know he was tippling and stuff like that. But I say, you know, just talking with him, he just said keeping composure, you know, just keep breathing out there, you know, it's hot as hell, so it's, you know, hard to breathe out there a little bit. But like I say, it was just one person I really appreciate a lot, and our connection for sure keeps growing.
Dante, you've talked about the learning curve in college, but do you feel like the last two, like your first 3 games, non-conference, maybe 100 level classes and intro and stuff, you kind of feel like with the beginning of conference play, it's ramped up to 200 or 300 level classes?
Yeah, I mean, college football is just truthfully, a lot of college teams are, you know, always going to be great teams. I mean, you know, it's really hard for college athletes to be in college to play the game of football. Like I said, it takes some type of talent and it takes really special talent, but this Pac-12 conference, I mean, is geesh. Like, everybody's good, you know, it's just, we just played, I don't know what rank they were, I think 12 or 13, something like that, but you know, just coming into this game, I mean, even last game, especially Utah, I mean, just these environments, these teams, in-conference teams are just amazing. You know, these quarterbacks, I'm just watching them, how they keep making these plays, just learning from the things they're doing. So, like I said, I mean, this conference is for sure a competitive conference, and I know with Coach Kelly and how he's, you know, getting us ready for each week and just bettering ourselves is for sure one thing that we're going to keep doing. It's difficult, though, to get to your question. This conference is difficult.
Dante, question. You guys watch the game films every week.
Right.
You've seen what Washington State would do. How do you think your defense affected this? Was it better than what they've seen in their prior 4 games? They came in 4, you guys came in 3-1, now you're tied up. Do you think that your defense was better than what they've seen in their prior games?
Just like defense? Oh, like what you mean?
Yeah.
So, then, yeah, our defense for sure, I can argue with anybody that our defense is one amazing defense for sure. Like, just having that pass rush, just having the DBs, and just, you know, as a quarterback, when you have them types of pass rushes and things like that, you can't just sit comfortably in the pocket. Like, you know, Cam was running around making his plays, throwing people off of him and doing things. I'm going to sound like, what is he doing? Like, he just keeps making plays. But just the way that our defense is doing really great things, like I say, you know, Washington State has played against, you know, some good defenses, but I can argue that our defense for sure is one of the best they're ever doing, you know, really in this college football, you know, conference. So it's just a lot, but like I said, as a quarterback, playing against tough defenses for sure can make us, you know, work harder for sure. Thank you. Always.
And Dante, seems like early in the season, you and Carson Ryan have had quite a connection. He makes that juggling catch today. Had one, looked like he may have had one in the end zone that was overturned. What's, I guess, working with him right now?
With Carson Ryan, I mean, just him and our tight ends are the way they just block, the way they catch passes, you know, and, you know, another one, Hudson, on that long catch he had. But to Carson, I mean, the way he just communicates, like I said, he's for sure the person that if we keep calling run plays, he's going to put the hard work in. Like I said, the hard work you put in is for sure going to get rewarded. You know, he can fake run block, pop open, catch these passes, and keep doing things like that. But I remember on that one pass in the end zone, it got my elbow got hit. That's why I kept like rolling it off because it got hit. It was a little a little sting on it. But my elbow got hit. But if I didn't get hit, I would have been a touchdown. I mean, I don't know if that was a catch, but I mean, I'd probably say that was a catch for sure. But like I said, it's just the way they keep making plays. I mean, like I said, I appreciate them, especially Moliki. Like I said, a lot of these catches, a lot of these ways I was getting out the pocket, they can get open for me. So I appreciate them a lot. And like I said, you know, just we're going to keep getting better.